Hello, and welcome to my video newsletter. I am so excited that Christmas is just around the corner, and as you can see, I've started a little bit of decorating. My grandkids from Georgia are flying in on the 14th, and so I'll get to spend a whole week with them, and I'm really excited to see them. In fact, my oldest granddaughter said, "Grammy, I want to write a book too." So I'm excited that we're going to get to spend that time to write a book together. So this is newsletter week number 6. However, I missed last week, so it's okay. I was busy doing the grandma thing, and I did it. I finished NaNoWriMo. My novel, The Dragon's Realm, came in at just over 87,000 words. I'm sure I'm going to be doing a lot of cutting and a lot of revisions and adding, and who knows what that book is going to look like. And I started writing book number 4, which will complete the Mystic's Tale series. And so far, I'm about 20,000 words into that one. And so I'm about maybe 1/4 of the way through, but I'm really excited. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I promised that I would be doing some reading on my newsletter. So let me share this book with you. This is The Miracle of Joy. I know it's backward, but I wanted to read chapter 1 to you and chapter 2, and if we have time, maybe I'll get to chapter 3. Okay, so here we go. Some secrets Santa simply could not be trusted with. His duties lie in fulfilling the expectations of millions of children all over the world. Only Mrs. Claus could fulfill special miracles found in the letters of the purest children. This was one of those special letters. Dear Mrs. Claus, Santa probably gets lots of letters, and I wanted to make sure mine didn't get lost. I know he's really busy with ordering his elves around and getting them to make more toys, because there's lots more kids around nowadays. So I'm writing to you because I know you'll make sure to help me with my Christmas wish. I don't want a toy this year. I want something really special, and it's not for me. But it kind of is. It's for my dad. He needs a wife, and that way I'll get a mommy. He didn't get any presents for 2 whole years. That's because my mommy and I were in a bad car accident. Mommy died, and I'm stuck in a wheelchair. Daddy is so sad that he forgets Christmas. We didn't even put up the Christmas tree last year, and we're not going to put up one this year either. And so I think that's why Santa won't bring anything. And I was in the hospital the year before that. Grammy got me some stuff, but Daddy didn't want anything. So she gave him a credit card thing. I saw it last week. It's still in his wallet. Anyway, I know that you'll make sure to help Daddy get a wife. I think he prefers ladies with blonde hair and blue eyes, but we'll take anyone as long as she's nice and doesn't run when she sees me. Your friend, Emily. P.S. My dog died too, so if my new mommy has one, that would be great. Unless it's a little one. They bark too much. Mrs. Claus smiled. She knew just the right elf for the job. Joy Noel. But here in the North Pole Kingdom, everyone calls her Joy, because that's who she is. Chapter 2. Matthew Adams' radio sat silent, void of the Christmas music ringing through the airwaves, just as it had been for the past 2 years. Even during the year, Matthew rarely turned it on. His wife had loved listening to music, especially this time of year. The women had been crazy about the season, often scolding him for not getting into the spirit of it all. Flipping radio stations was something Cadence loved to do. Not Matt. His business took priority, and when the weather was good, his boys stayed later making up for rainy days. As he sped his truck toward the sleepy town of Miracle, Texas, the pine trees zipped by in an endless sea of dark green, the murky dusk deepening the grieving in his heart. Even the slight flush of pink from the fading sunlight cast a sheen against the wet asphalt, which did little to bring him joy. Matt rounded the bend where his wife had taken her final breath and left his daughter, Emily, bound to a wheelchair for the rest of her life. He gripped the steering wheel tighter. If only Cadence had waited until morning to run her errand. She never listened to him. Worse still, if Laura Milo hadn't been texting and driving, his wife would still be alive. Sadness threatened to overwhelm him. Instead, he focused on his anger. Her penalty and fines would never compensate for her horrid choice. No message justified being so stupid. He'd give anything for Cadence to not listen to him one more time and set about doing things her own way. Mrs. Milo had stolen everything from him. He hit the high beams after a semi passed and tried to ignore the ditch where her car had rolled. Once he got to the other side of the fatal spot, a huge gray critter with way too many eyes reflected back at him. Matt slammed on the brakes. The tires screeched to a halt in front of an animal. Hands shaking, he pulled to the side of the road and threw on his hazards. With a well-chosen swear word, he exited the truck. The chill in the air nearly sucked his breath away. His truck headlights glowing off the back of all those retinas sent the heebie-jeebies crawling up his spine like a jumping wall spider. Dang possums! This mama was either dead or playing dead. Sometimes it was hard to tell. Either way, he couldn't leave them here in the middle of the road to get hit. He grabbed the lifeless critter by the tail and dragged it across the road. Several of the babies hissed at him, baring their teeth. One even snapped at him. Matt yanked his hand back. No need to get rabies. 6 of the vermin clung to the mama's dead body. Cadence would have applauded his kindness at saving defenseless creatures. He went back to his truck and tried to locate something to wrap the babies in. Nothing. With a heavy sigh, he pulled off his shirt, laid it on the side of the road, and pried the young'uns off the mama's back. The last one, nearest the mama's head, did not want to let go of her fur. It hissed and bared its teeth. He supposed that's the way it was with some of the chillins. Bite and hiss at the hand that brings you to safety. These little ones would miss their mama for sure. Matt grabbed the cuff of his shirt and stuffed his hand inside, then gently grabbed the baby opossum by the scruff of the neck and tucked it inside the long sleeve. The others had nestled down, probably felt kind of like the warmth of their mama. Shivering, Matt picked up the bundle and set them back on the back seat. After climbing inside his truck, he turned up the heat. Then, leaning his head back against the rest, he let out a breath. Once he put his car in drive, he headed off down the road to home. Do you think perhaps your wife wants to tell you you're doing a good job taking care of your daughter by setting those babies in the middle of the road for you? It might just be a message from the other side. Surprised, Matt jerked the wheel of his car, swerved off the road, and headed down an embankment before he slammed on the brakes, bringing his vehicle to a stop. His heart pounded. The bundle on the back seat landed with a thunk on the floor. 6 little howlers set up a commotion. Matt turned and searched the back seat. Who said that? Suddenly, lights flashed behind him. A highway patrol car pulled off the road slightly up the embankment from him. The flashlight bounced in the rearview mirror as the officer descended the hill. Rolling down the window, the cold night air prickled his bare arm in spite of the warmth inside the truck. Is everything all right? The officer shined his light inside. The beam rested on the bottle of Martinelli's. The cap had come off, and the inside of the car reeked of apple cider. I'm fine. Matt stumbled over his words. His heart had sped up with the appearance of the patrolman. Step out of your vehicle. The officer backed up to allow Matt to open the door. Matt left the warmth and stepped into the frigid night. I haven't been drinking. That's a non-alcoholic beverage. Matt pointed back inside the truck where the bottle rested. I'd still like to run a sobriety test. His name badge read Goodman. Matt took a deep breath. I was just getting some baby opossums off the road. Their mama was dead, and I didn't want the little ones to get hit by oncoming traffic." "How did you end up down here?" Officer Goodman asked. Matt didn't dare tell him he was hearing voices, or he'd do more than take a breathalyzer test. "The critters started making noises, and I looked back to check on him. I know it was stupid to take my eyes off the road." Matt wished he'd shine his flashlight anywhere but his face. It made it hard to see the officer. "Where are they now?" Skepticism came thickly in his voice. "I think they rolled under my seat." Matt started to reach for the handle of the back door. Officer Goodman pulled his gun. "Put your hands up." Matt had never stared down the barrel of a gun before. If his heart was pounding hard previous to the police officer's appearance, for sure he would see it pulsing through his thin undershirt. "Sorry." He stepped back. The officer opened the back door, keeping his piece aimed at Matt. After doing a thorough search of the back seat, he reached under the driver's side seat and pulled the flannel shirt out. "I guess you were right." He held up the writhing material. The ornery critter stuck his head out of the sleeve and hissed. Goodman dropped the shirt. "If you'd like, I'll take these to the animal shelter." Matt wrapped his arms around himself and shivered. "That would be great." His chattering teeth made it hard to speak. After his breathalyzer came back 0% alcohol, Officer Goodman motioned to the car. "Go on, get back in. I'll send a tow truck to pull you out of the ditch." "Thanks." Matt got in, closed the door, and rolled up the window. He started the engine and blasted the heater as high as it would go. Matt had heard a voice as plain as day, as if someone sat in the front seat. But there'd been no one there. He pressed his hands into his eyes. "Perhaps, please, don't go to that dark place." Emily needed him. All right, so that's the first 2 chapters of The Miracle of Joy. And we find out a little bit more about another character in here whose name is Wink, and he causes all kinds of problems for Joy. She accidentally turns herself into a human and loses all of her Christmas magic. And that's a lot of fun. And now she's falling for her client. The second book in this series is The Miracle of Wink. And Wink causes all kinds of problems in book 2, or book 1. And so Mrs. Claus sends him back to Miracle as his punishment to find a boyfriend for this young lady who wants tall, dark, handsome, and a good kisser. Well, as you can tell, Wink is neither tall, dark, nor handsome, but he is one other thing, and that's the good kisser. And I love this story. This is a redemption story. Her mother died when she was about 11 years old, and she has not forgiven God for taking her mother. And so she's basically written off God. Well, Wink is a firm believer, and so he kind of helps her to rekindle her faith again. And then the last book in this series just came out, and I finally got my author copies. It's called Peppermint's Christmas Miracle, and this is Peppermint, and she is Wink's sister. And the circumstances that she ends up in Miracle are just a lot of fun. And I'm not going to give that away. You'll just have to pick up a copy of those books. So I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and I will see you next week. And until then,